All right, so the Rams are losing their passing game coordinator and quarterbacks coach. Zac Robinson is heading to the Atlanta Falcons to follow new head coach and former defense coordinator of the Rams, Raheem Morris. I love this move because I'll be honest with you guys. I understand I cover the Rams, but the writing was on the wall. I mean, this guy he's on his way. I think when you look at Zac Robinson, he resembles very similarly to what Zac Taylor is, what he ended up becoming for the Cincinnati Bengals. And I think he's going to end up being a head coach as early as maybe next year. I think he's going to do really well in Atlanta. I think that there are some really good things about him. Plus, I like that he's a former quarterback. I like that he played in the NFL. He didn't play a ton, but he did. Played his college football at Oklahoma State. But, I think with Zac Robinson, you just have to appreciate just what he's been able to do, for that quarterback room and how he's continued to work his way up the rungs and how Sean McVay has continued to give him more and more responsibility and develop him, because the Rams, they got him right off of Pro Football Focus. So, okay, he was a writer analyst, Pro Football Focus, and then he joins the Rams in 2019 and becomes the assistant quarterbacks coach. And then Sean McVay's attempt to make him more, well-rounded as a potential offensive coordinator candidate and develop him, he makes him an assistant wide receivers coach. And then in 2021, he goes back to assistant quarterbacks coach. And then 2022, he becomes the passing game coordinator and the quarterbacks coach. He retains that position in 2023. And obviously, you go back to 2022, what he was able to do, and he's been credited for it, what he's been able to do, or what he was able to do back when the Rams claimed Baker Mayfield, he is known for getting him ready to play 48 hours after being claimed. So this is somebody that's very well liked. I hear great things. Like when I talk to people inside the organization, I've only heard great things about Zac Robinson. Obviously, I don't know him personally, but just based on what I've heard and just the way Raheem Morris is, to me, this is a perfect hire for the Falcons because you're getting familiarity. You're also getting the fact that Robinson now, there's a lot of pressure that's off him because he gets a chance to go. And yes, he's a offensive coordinator, but he gets to stick with somebody that he's familiar with. Like he's been in the room with Raheem Morris. So I really like this because there were other teams involved. He's not going to a Seattle Seahawks. He's not going to, Arizona Cardinals. He's not going to a rival. He's going to the Atlanta Falcons, he's going to get a chance to coach with Raheem Morris. So I like that. This is a loss. Now the Rams have a pretty big opening at their quarterback coach spot and passing game coordinator. So there are some options. I won't get too much into that because I haven't really I didn't take a dive into it, right? But I think when you look at this, I mean, this is essentially what it's been like for Sean McVay. I mean, say what you will, but 37 years old, I mean, he's likely going to be a head coach before he's 40 if everything works out. And this is somebody he found from PFF, and I just think that this is Sean McVay in a nutshell. I mean, you have your coaches that want to keep things close to the vest and, hire their buddies and, only hire their buddies and not really develop and hire guys that have more experience. Sean McVay is not afraid to bring in anybody at this point. There was no prior connection, I don't believe, with Zac Taylor. He did not go to school at Miami of Ohio, not saying that McVay's never hired a guy like that. Caniglio is from there. But it's not like he went buddy-buddy and favoritism here. Like, he found Robinson. He does his due diligence. He did the same with Brandon Staley. Took him off the Denver Broncos as an outside linebacker coach. He took him off the Denver Broncos and gave him a defensive coordinator job. I mean, I think in a perfect world, Sean McVay would have loved to have Zac Robinson be his offensive coordinator down the road, but this just speaks volumes. And this is also, again, Sean McVay doesn't hide coaches. I want to make this very clear. When you hear his pressers, if you don't watch him, you don't listen to him, his pressers, he's always calling out guys by name. And you have to understand what that does. It might be hurting him to a degree because it's weakening his coaching staff. He's giving those guys, their fair share of spotlight. Those guys are now named in articles and so forth. And then you have people talking good things about them and bringing those up. But I like this because it shows you not just how cool it is for Sean McVay as a person and how he cares about promotions. This looks good for the future. So if anyone wants to coach for the Rams and they want to coach for Sean McVay, they also have seen what they get from that. You see the way he reacts. He doesn't just say, yeah, we did this, we did that. He'll say, yeah, I thought Joe Caniglio did a really nice job of getting these guys prepared for this game. Or I think, Zac Robinson, our quarterback's coach, did a great job getting Baker prepared to play. And I know Baker mentioned it as well. He mentioned Zach, by name. But it's one of those things where, like, you notice that stuff. You're like, yeah, Jonathan Cooley got those guys, ready to go in the cornerback room. Like, he said that back when Cooley was on the team. And yeah, Aubrey Pleasant, just that preparation and just that you hear it. That's him giving those guys a nod, and everyone sees that. And that, because you're giving those quotes, those guys show up in articles. And when they show up in articles, it gives them more, spotlight. So Sean McVay could easily do what some coaches do when they have a really good prospect and they don't want to lose them, not talk about him. He could easily just take the credit or say, yeah, we did this, we did that. But notice, next time you hear Sean McVay, every little bit, oh yeah, you got to give a lot of credit to Jeremy Springer, assistant special teams coach, and of course, the job that Chase Blackburn's doing. Like, he always says that. Yeah, our coach Eric Yarber got those guys ready to go, and then of course you had Ron Gould, with the running backs, and it's like that's just how he is. So unfortunately, this is what happens: is you lose your coaches. The beauty of this is nothing is going to bring Sean McVay down. Nothing. Only injuries. Because losing coaches, it doesn't matter anymore. Sean McVay has already shown the ability to go out and find coaches. Okay? And he's learned from his mistakes too. He's hired guys that maybe he didn't have a ton of time interviewing. Maybe he didn't hire, he didn't interview enough guys. He's learned from his mistakes. So that is really that. But I'd say, just as far as, Zac Robinson, I'm rooting for him. And to be honest with you, if you're going to sit there and tell me that, okay, we're going to root for the Lions because Jared Goff and Michael Brockers and Brad Holmes. Well, I'll tell you right now, I'm going to be rooting for the Falcons this year. Not over the Rams, of course. Do not misquote me on that. But this is a team that is going to have Zac Robinson. It's going to have Raheem Morris, and there's likely going to be other guys. And to me, those two guys are already really likable. I've heard great things about, and I already like Raheem Morris as it is. I've been a defender of his, so I hope he kills it. They both won Super Bowls for the Rams, so that's really cool. They're like etched in history. But this is a cool thing, man. This is really cool. I'm not saying it would apply to me, but the fact that he went from PFF and is now going to be an offensive coordinator, I think that's I didn't want to bury that lead there. I think that's a big deal, and I don't think it's talked about nearly enough. This is somebody that was drafted in the 7th round by the New England Patriots in 2010. Okay, that was the same draft as Sam Bradford. That was a draft after Matthew Stafford, and he was working with Stafford this year as his quarterback's coach. I think just the culture with the Rams, just the fact that he's going to bring that in as well with Raheem Morris, no matter where he goes, you're going to hear a lot about Zac Robinson. I can tell you that right now. I have a really good feeling about him. I think the Falcons nailed this thing. I'm very curious to see where the Rams go, the direction they go into. Like, do they go into like maybe a Jay Gruden or a John Gruden? Do they see maybe if they want to be a quarterback's coach? I don't know. I mean, I could see him going close to the vest. I could see him going out. Maybe they get Brian Johnson, who was the offensive coordinator. Wasn't a great year for the Eagles, was, relieved of his duties. Maybe you bring in Brian Johnson, excuse me. You bring in Brian Johnson from the Eagles to be the quarterback coach. There's other guys as well. There's guys on the roster. KJ Black is another one. He was a coaching fellow, and they've been developing him. And I like KJ Black. Based on what I've heard great things about him. So maybe this is a huge opportunity to develop a KJ Black here, make him your quarterback coach and passing game coordinator, and maybe you have an up and coming big time stud prospect as a head coach. Maybe you develop another guy. And, that's a great thing, because he's a minority coaching fellow. So they have the fellowship program, and just to see him work his way up the rungs and be an offensive assistant, and then potentially maybe he moves into this spot. And I've heard Sean McVay mention his name before, as well as Nick Jones, the other offensive assistant who helps with the offensive line. I got to tell you, there's some really good stuff coming down the pipeline. We already know Sean McVay really liked this coaching staff, wasn't going to move on from any of them. But he also was a big fan of promotion. And surprisingly, Mike LaFleur didn't get any burn in the head coaching realm. To me, I think Mike LaFleur is deserving of it. I think the offense took the strides it did because LaFleur came into the building and, added that outside influence. And I'm just going to say that right now. I think when you look at Mike LaFleur, he's going to be a head coach, but I think he still has some of the Jets stink, if you will, and that's what's allowing him to stick with the Rams. So, I'm sure Sean McVay kind of thought maybe if things worked out the way he wanted them to, LaFleur could end up being a head coach and Zac Robinson would take over, but that's not what happened, and you're not going to get rid of Mike LaFleur. So, credit to the Rams for developing Zac Robinson. Credit to Zac Robinson for working his tail off to get to this point. And I'm wishing him and Raheem Morris nothing but the best in Atlanta. I'm very curious to see who the quarterback coach and passing game coordinator will be. I would really like to see KJ Black get his shot, at least as a quarterback coach. If you want to, have a different passing game coordinator, fine. I also think Jake Peetz is an option as well, has more experience. But something about, promoting KJ Black would be really cool. And again, I've heard great things. There's pretty much the majority of their coaching staff I've heard excellent things about. So just keep that in mind. That's what happens when you build a really nice culture. So those are my thoughts. I don't have too much to say because it just happened. I'm reacting to it. I just actually recorded the Brandon Staley video, so I'll be posting that, but I'm going to post this one first. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, smash that like button, subscribe, and be sure to leave a comment. Check out all social media at JKBogan. And if you want further content, you want more JE content, be sure to check that out. Podcast is in the description below. But I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, folks. Later.
Start playing Pick'em or Weekly Fantasy for any sport today, Jake. Users will receive a 100% deposit match up to $100 if they use promo code OTE at sign up. Start playing Pick'em and Weekly Fantasy Football today with Underdog Fantasy.
Do you love talking about the Rams, the NFL, or just want to be a part of a community? Join my free Discord server today. We're over 800 members. We got 24/7 live chat, a level 3 boosted server, the ability to call into JE Live, playing online games with us on Kick streams, toggleable alerts for when I go live on YouTube or Kick so you don't miss a live stream, and exclusive giveaways. Click the link in the description, the comments section, or the link that comes up in the video to learn more and join today.